When it comes to TV shows, endings change everything. A great finale can turn a good show into a legendary one, but a terrible ending, well, that can destroy years of emotional investment overnight. And the craziest part is, sometimes two shows can be equally amazing for years, but one sticks the landing while the other completely falls apart. So today we are alternating between greatness and disaster. One perfect ending, then one terrible one. Let's get into it. We have to start with Breaking Bad because honestly, this is still the gold standard for TV finales. What makes this ending so satisfying is that everything feels earned. Walter White's story was never about becoming a hero, it was about ego, pride, and control. And in the finale, Walt finally admits the truth: I did it for me. That one line completely defines the entire series. Then the ending ties up every major storyline perfectly. Jesse finally escapes, Walt saves him in the only way he still can, and Walt dies surrounded by the empire he destroyed his life to build. It's tragic, it's emotional, and most importantly, the show committed to its consequences. No cheap twist, no cliffhanger, just a complete ending. That's why people still compare every finale to Breaking Bad. Then we have Game of Thrones, a show that defined television and then collapsed under its own ending. The problem wasn't the ideas, it was the execution. Daenerys becoming the Mad Queen could work, Bran becoming king, maybe, but the final season rushes everything so fast that nothing feels earned. Characters suddenly stop behaving like themselves, major arcs end instantly, and the Night King, built up for years, is gone in just one episode. It felt like the show forgot its own pacing, and that's why fans didn't just dislike it, they rejected it. Now, let's talk about Mr. Robot, one of the smartest endings television has ever done. This show constantly played with reality, identity, and perceptions. So fans expected some massive twist ending, and technically they got one. But what makes the finale brilliant is that the final reveal isn't there just to shock you. It completely redefines Elliot's entire journey. The show reveals that the version of Elliot we have been following isn't truly the real Elliot, but another personality created to protect him from the trauma. And suddenly, the entire series becomes less about hacking and conspiracies and more about healing. What could have been a confusing twist instead becomes deeply emotional, because in the end, the finale isn't about saving the world, it's about Elliot finally letting go. That final montage with Mr. Blue Sky playing in the background, absolute cinema. How I Met Your Mother has one of the most infamous sitcom endings ever, mainly because the finale completely ignored years of character development. The show spent multiple seasons building Barney and Robin's relationship, then the finale destroys their marriage almost immediately. Why? So Ted can end up with Robin again, and fans hated it because the show had already moved past that storyline years earlier. Even worse, the mother herself, the character the entire show revolves around, barely gets any time before being killed off. It felt less like a satisfying conclusion and more like the writers forcing an old ending onto a story that had evolved beyond it. That's the key problem. The characters changed, but the ending didn't. Now we get to Succession. This show gave us an ending that was absolutely ruthless and completely perfect. The genius of Succession is that the show spends 4 seasons convincing you one of the Roy siblings might finally win. Maybe Kendall becomes his father, maybe Shiv outsmarts everyone, maybe Roman changes. But the finale reveals the truth. None of them were capable of replacing Logan Roy. They were raised to fight for power but never taught how to actually deserve it. And Kendall's breakdown in the boardroom is brutal because deep down he knows it too. The ending feels inevitable not because it's shocking, but because the characters were trapped from the beginning. And the final shot of Kendall sitting alone by the water, that's one of the coldest endings television has ever delivered. The original ending of Dexter is almost legendary for how disappointing it was. After years of watching Dexter struggle between humanity and monstrosity, the show ends him with becoming a lumberjack. Seriously, one of the biggest issues was Deb's ending. It felt emotionally hollow and bizarrely executed, and Dexter himself never truly faces meaningful consequences. The finale feels less like a conclusion and more like the writers simply giving up. The backlash was so strong that they literally made another sequel series years later to try fixing it, and somehow fans still ended up divided. Next up, Dark. This show could have easily collapsed under its own complexity. Time travel stories almost always fall apart eventually, but somehow Dark actually made everything connect. The finale reveals that the entire nightmare only exists because of one original event, and the solution isn't fighting harder, it's preventing the entire cycle from ever happening. What makes the ending brilliant is that it's emotional instead of just clever. The show isn't really about time travel, it's about grief, loss, and people desperately trying to undo pain. And in the end, the characters only find peace by letting go. The final dinner scene is haunting because after all the chaos, life simply continues. No giant explosions, no forced happy ending, just acceptance. Now, let's talk about Killing Eve. This one hurt because the show had so much potential. The chemistry between Eve and Villanelle carried the entire series. Fans waited years to see their relationship fully explode, and then the finale gives them a brief moment together before immediately destroying it with a shock ending that felt unnecessary and cruel. It wasn't tragic in a meaningful way, it felt abrupt, and fans were furious because it seemed to punish the audience for caring about the characters. The worst endings often make viewers feel like their emotional investment didn't matter, and Killing Eve absolutely fell into that trap. Then we have BoJack Horseman. It had one of the hardest jobs imaginable. How do you end a show about depression, addiction, trauma, and self destruction without betraying its message? And somehow it pulled it off perfectly. A lot of fans expected BoJack to either die or magically become a better person, but the show refuses both extremes. Instead, it gives us something much more realistic. Recovery is ongoing. There is no moment where your life suddenly becomes fixed forever. The finale forces Bojack to face the consequences for his actions while also showing that life keeps moving forward. Some friendships end, some people move on, and some damage can't be undone. The rooftop conversation with Diane feels painfully real because there is no dramatic resolution, just two people realizing they may never speak again. It's bittersweet in the most honest way possible. And finally, The Boys. This is one of the most divisive TV finales in recent years. The series spent 5 seasons building towards an epic showdown between Butcher and Homelander, with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. And while the finale delivers some strong emotional moments and great performances, many fans felt the payoff didn't match the build up. Major storylines feel rushed, some characters get sidelined, and the final confrontation feels surprisingly small for a show that constantly raised the stakes. What makes the ending frustrating isn't that it's terrible, it's that all the pieces for a great finale were there. The acting is excellent, the character moments work, but for many viewers, the ending never quite delivers the explosive payoff the series seemed to promise, and that's why The Boys has become one of the most debated TV endings in recent memory. Endings are the hardest thing in storytelling because they don't just finish a plot, they rewrite how we feel about everything that came before them. Some shows stick the landing and become timeless, other collapse under expectations. So now I want to know, what's your greatest TV ending ever, and what finale made you go, they ruined it? Let me know in the comments.